Perform the operations by hand, then use a calculator to check your work. So as we look at our problem here, we can see we've got a number of different operations going on. And so let's go ahead and write down our order of operations, little diagram, just to help us remember what we should do when. So we have P for parentheses, and other grouping symbols are included with that. E is for exponents. Multiply or divide from left to right. Add or subtract from left to right. So this is the process that we're going to be going through. So let's take a look at our problem. So parentheses, do we have parentheses? Well, we have one set of parentheses up here in the numerator, but notice I can't do anything inside those parentheses. Now keep in mind, something that doesn't look like a parenthesis but also works as a grouping symbol is this fraction bar. So that also is part of this P, because that P for parentheses stands for any kind of grouping symbols. And that fraction bar groups the numerator together and groups the denominator together. So we're going to simplify the numerator and we're going to simplify the denominator. Then we're going to come back and do the division stuff that fraction bar is indicating. So let's take a look at our numerator. 3 minus a negative 17. Well, 3 minus a negative 17 is basically the same thing as 3 plus 17, isn't it? My denominator, each step along the way, I just want to take one step, one for the numerator and one for the denominator. Negative 4 minus 11. Now again, depending on where you're at with working with these signed numbers, you might be fine to look at that and say, oh yeah, negative 4 combined with negative 11 is negative 15. Or you may still like to write it as negative 4 plus negative 11. Okay? So here I'm just rewriting each of the numerator and the denominator rather than writing it as a subtraction problem, writing it as adding the opposite. Now we can go ahead and see where we go from here. 3 plus 17 is going to give me 20 for my numerator. And in my denominator, we've got negative 4 plus negative 11, which would give us negative 15. Now that's not going to be our final answer. We want to go ahead and simplify the fraction. Whenever we have a sign in our fraction, we want to be sure that that sign comes out in front rather than being just in the numerator or just in the denominator. We know a positive divided by a negative is a negative, so I'm going to put that out in front of the fraction. Now when we have 20 over 15, notice that there's a common factor of 5. So I'm going to write out that common factor of 5. The numerator would be 5 times 4, and the denominator would be 5 times 3. Then we can see that 5 over 5, that's going to be that 1 that's going to cancel out. So my final answer would be negative 4/3. And you might go ahead and take one more step and change that to the mixed number, negative 1 1/3. But remember, we've said that we really prefer the improper fraction for our final answer. So that would be our preferred final answer. Let's take a look at our calculator and see how we can use our calculator to check our work. If we check the numerator, we can say 3 minus negative 17. I'm going to use my parentheses there and close the parentheses. That gives us 20 for our numerator, which we saw before. If we check our denominator, negative 4 minus 11, and watch the difference between the negative sign and the subtraction sign. That gives us the negative 15 for our denominator. Now we can take 20 divided by negative 15. Now this gives us the fraction, or the decimal form, doesn't it? But that's okay. We can have our calculator change this to a fraction for us by using this little FD key right up above this little thing that says PRB. So if we press the second and then press the PRB, that says take the answer, change it from a fraction to a decimal or from a decimal to a fraction. And then we'll see, negative 1 1/3. Remember, that's what we came up with right there. So it all checks.